again, this kind of ties into the ESG side of things, in the sense that you can look at, more diverse supply chain, different types of suppliers, diversity within suppliers, and also inclusion in a great point that a lady called Andrea Fimian brought up in a podcast that I recorded with her, where she was talking about inclusion as allowing smaller companies to be part of the bidding process. Whereas if there isn't a kind of open and well-managed process around procuring services, then quite often it's just a gimme. So what's your view in that, in terms of leveraging the right size of companies and getting the value from that diversity? Because I feel like there's a lot of innovation out there, both in big companies and in small companies, but there's different size companies and different types of companies will try and do things differently, and they'll have a different makeup of their own businesses as well.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And I listened to that podcast as well. What a fascinating lady. I thought the part around, sorry to digress, but I think the part around GDPR in Europe versus what you're trying to do with your diversity agenda is something we're feeling too. Thankfully, we've got experts like her to help us.
That was something I would never have thought of.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't go as far as it blew my mind, but it was a bit of a kind of light bulb moment, Johnny, to go, God, I didn't even think of that. Of course. There's so many factors that you need to almost tick off when you're putting the strategy together. On this point, I agree with you. The what's the old adage? No one gets fired for going with IBM. And that we, like you say, we've got some amazing long-standing partnerships with a whole host of consulting services, consulting firms. But I think what I've observed in my services side is that companies do, by and large, and historically, have a tendency to bundle up services and to reach out to a couple of partners and say, we're looking to do all of this. We want you to partner with us. And it kind of covers the whole managing consulting spectrum, the execution, the insights, the expertise, the information. And I think on the positive side, what that leads to is very solid relationships. It can accelerate delivery through, like you say, they know our business really well. That institutional knowledge is great. You will get strong responsiveness, and you'll get outputs that, like you said, based on perception. I think if we were to summarize them all, you would call them as reasonable, above average, certainly acceptable. But the risk with that is it can facilitate low accountability, not just for price, but for consistency and performance and pushing the agenda. So if you look to unbundle some of those services, I think, I'm quite open about what we're trying to do, which is get closer with our partners, get them closer to understanding our ambitions as an organization, make sure that they know what their part is as a trusted advisor. But we do need disruptors as well. And we can have a panel of a PSL. They can all be the classic companies used by most organizations, really, really strong history and background in what they do. But then there are disruptors like freelancer platforms who sometimes bring the individuals to us and, might work for certain types of services so that we can point the arrow of our actual supply partners where we truly need their expertise. But likewise, just in my area of business consulting, there's a lot of disruptors in the D&I and ESG space. There's a lot of minority and women-owned strategy houses and business consultancies here. And if we're going to truly deliver what BP's overarching strategy and ambition is, then we need to bring those partners to the table. When we combine that with our growth areas like low carbon energy and the hydrogen and offshore wind businesses that I work with, it's fascinating. And please don't test me on it, because I like to be judged by the company that I keep. They are knowledgeable beyond belief. But when they come with the strategy and say, here's what we're looking to do, we as a business actually need a very different type of supplier in some instances now. We can reach out to our classic partners and say, here's a new growth area. Can you send me a paper? I'd like to share it with our VPs in that area. They'll come up with something brilliant. But actually, the turnaround time needed for some of these projects, particularly the ones led by the government, is a week compared to 12 weeks.
Is it so? It's obviously right skills. Is it sometimes right size? Is it sometimes right time in terms of when you've got fast turnaround stuff? If you've only got a very small selected number of suppliers that you can go to, none of them might be able to do it in that time. If you've got the ability to go out, for example, if you're running RFP processes using services procurement technology, if you've got the ability to go out rapidly to a range of suppliers and receive bids and turn around on the basis of I need this and I need it then, is that a consideration? Because that's almost like a gig economy type approach, but within your organisation.
Absolutely, and my personal position is an unashamedly position of saying to all of our partners whenever I speak to them, we need more competitive bidding and we need a more diverse pool of supply partners to be invited to those bids. And cream will rise to the top, excuse the cliche. My old boss used it loads, but it does resonate with me that our legacy historic partners are as important as ever. They will win bids, and because of their infrastructure, they'll win more than many. But we should at least include, the micro and the SME organisations where applicable in our supply chains to really kind of ensure that we go where the talent goes, but also that we're ensuring that we're sometimes applying a slightly different lens to what we're looking to deliver and how we're looking to deliver it. Absolutely. So I do think it's sometimes right time, right place. But what is certain is we will not transform one little bit if we don't get ahead of that conversation and start to drop the strategy of how we're going to engage work earlier on in the hopper, as it were.